New temporary lower speed limits will be introduced on side roads in Fontmell Magna, and Dorset Council officers will review whether to retain the one-way system in lanes around Melbury Abbas and Cann. Those were the key outcomes of the February meeting to review progress of the Dinah's Holloway works. Dorset Councillor for Melbury, Cann and Compton, Jane Somper, discusses the impact of the C13 Higher Blandford Road closure with officials on a monthly basis. The Holloway has been shut since the 5th of January, while Dorset Council carries out an £8 million scheme designed to reduce the risk of injury or death if the banks were to slip while a car or lorry is passing through. 6 years ago, the route was reportedly carrying 6,000 vehicles a day, so the closure of this C13, diverting traffic onto the A350 and along smaller roads not built for such volumes, is affecting communities and commuters. Jane says one concern dominates her residents' correspondence: speeding.
Speeding on the A350 is the largest chunk of email correspondence I'm getting, and people driving dangerously, people tailgating. I actually yesterday pulled over and wrote down a number plate of a van that tailgated me and then went off at speed outside Minster, which I need to report. Whenever I go through Fontmell Magna, because they've got the speed indicator sign, and I'm behind other vehicles, it flashes every single time. No one is paying attention.
Another common question is whether the project will finish as scheduled in December. From her February meeting, Jane believes that's likely.
I can only go on what I'm told, and they are pretty confident that it will finish when it's supposed to finish.
Do you think they're going to finish ahead of time, or is that too much to ask for?
I can only hope.
The Melbury Abbas and Cann Parish Council meeting heard concerns that local drivers are frequently facing oncoming traffic that shouldn't be driving in the opposing direction on lanes where the one-way system's been put in place to manage higher than expected volumes in these side roads. It was something requested by Melbury Parish Council. While the discussion suggested it was people using the lanes as rat runs and trying to avoid the Dinah's Hollow closure, Jane Somper says it's not just out-of-area drivers who are offending here.
It's quite difficult to lay blame simply on people who are visiting. I'm not sure that that's always correct. I think there's a lot of local people that use those lanes. I know of a couple actually who use Quarry Lane, and they've said that they've been challenged using it the correct way. So I think there's a lot of angst by local people that live in these roads and live in these lanes of people using them, and they just so there's a sort of, I think, conflict occurring quite regularly with local residents and people using it. Whether or not it was the right thing to do, I think is still unclear, actually, and I think it has to run for a little bit longer. It may well be that they decide to remove those because perhaps if people are not following them, it's just causing more disruption for people, for residents there. But, I don't know what that decision will be. They're going to continue to monitor this for a period of time.
Is there a date, a time frame they're working towards when they'll come up with an assessment as to whether the one-way guidance stays or goes?
No, they haven't. But I would imagine that we've got Easter coming up in April, and I wonder if they will sort of wait until after that period to see if there's an increase or it changes in any way. Perhaps I would have liked to have seen that, a little sooner, but they can't just jump to decisions. They do have to monitor things for a while. But that's just my guess, and no one's actually said that when they will make that decision. But it is under review and it is being monitored.
So the plan was just to have people staffing the barriers to question, as there have been, people driving through to find out why they're going through the road closed sign. And if you're local, you have a reason, of course, you can get through. That was just going to be in January. It was extended to February. Is that now over?
Once they've sort of come to their conclusions about whether or not they're going to continue with the one-way systems that are in place, then obviously they'll make a decision about whether or not they'll continue to man that. It's difficult for those people. Sometimes they can be challenged quite aggressively, and they're not enforcement people, they're not police, so one has to bear that in mind as well.
It's also a cost, isn't it? Having a person there covering all waking hours is expensive.
It's very expensive, and residents have come up with some sort of interesting suggestions of what might be possible, but access has to be available for drivers.
From the 9th of March, there's going to be more 20-mile-an-hour zones. Now, these are, I know they're in Newen, but that's outside our patch. These cover pretty much most of Fontmell off the A350.
Yes, this is what residents have been requesting.
Why? Are they finding that people who are doing 20 on the 350 are actually compensating for what they might perceive to be extra time spent on the road by speeding up, going onto the side roads?
Well, I think there's a whole debate around the 20 miles an hour along the whole route, and people are definitely not observing it. I mean, there obviously are some people who observe it, but there's a lot more who appear not to be. And actually some pretty dangerous driving. And I think that is being repeated in the side roads, that people are turning off and driving faster than they should be. And obviously with some increase in vehicles there, that's causing great concern to residents. I mean, there are some particular areas in Fontmell Magna of concern, one of which I'm particularly concerned around. That's around the verge where the pond is in Mill Street. Yeah, which officers will be looking at that. My conversation with them was, what, you're just going to wait for it to cave in, or are we going to wait for a lorry to fall, car to fall in there if that verge gives way? So they're taking that seriously and going to have a look at it. I mean, obviously the weather has made that worse because the soil has been so wet. But with that increase in traffic, or an increase in vehicles, it's clearly had an impact.
There is a lot of extra traffic using roads that don't normally take such volumes, and one thing that's been flagged up to us several times, the road past Compton Abbas Airfield, boundary road that goes up to the B3081, lots of traffic there, lots of potholes there, and the edge of the road is slipping at some points.
Part of that road leads out into parts of Wiltshire. Yes, they did do a lot of work, and Gore Clump has obviously had safety work done to it as well. And that road has been used as a cut-through for a long time. I mean, since when Dinah's Hollow has been closed in the past, vehicles have used that. But always important, if there are damages to road or damages to verges or large potholes, of which there are many all over the place, then people have to report them. You've got to report them.
And do you feel that there is going to be work done to make sure the roads are reinstated in terms of quality once this project's over? That's what you asked for, but they're taking a hammering now, and we're 3 months in.
And again, not helped by this weather, which absolutely hammers the roads. There are some absolutely enormous potholes. I mean, they're just gigantic. I reported another one today in Sutton Hill. But I have asked, as has fellow councillor who's been dealing with this for a long time as well, that budget should be set aside for repairs, significant repairs, which are no doubt going to have to be made when this project is over. Permanent repairs, not just patching up.
Finally, Jane, one thing that Alfred listeners have raised a lot is signage. Some want more, some want clearer signage, some want signage about the closure of the Hollow further out. Some have said that it refers to the C13, the electronic sign, say the C13 is closed. There's probably nowhere else in the country you ever use a C road classification. Most locals know it, but people outside the area won't find the C13 marked on the map, so that might be meaningless. Is there an issue with signage?
I mean, there's a lot of signage, and I think it's difficult for drivers. You know, you're driving along and then there's all this signage and you think you're going in one direction and then there's the name of a road, as you say, which you haven't heard of. It's more helpful to have, you know, road to Blandford or road to Poole or, you know, road to somewhere that's identifiable for people. You know, I think numbers so far indicate that actually I think there's less traffic on the A350 than they had anticipated. That's not to say it hasn't increased, it absolutely has. But we haven't hit holiday season, and clearly that's going to have a major impact.
Dorset Councillor Jane Somper, she'll be back with another update in a month's time. If you've got any particular issues to raise with Dorset Council, the special email address is dinahs.hollow@dorsetcouncil.gov.uk. And Jane says if you copy her into any correspondence, Councillor Jane Somper, she'll make sure that it gets